everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I'm your host, Emily Hayden, and today we are joined by the owner and co-founder of Trace Body Rejuvenation, Andrew Kaluza.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, stoked to have you. So, okay, I want to tell them a little bit about how we first connected. So, if you guys follow me on my Instagram story, then you remember back when I injured my back, very beginning of January, which is like the last time that anyone wants to get an injury, right? Like you start the new year, you're excited for all of your goals, and then boom, back injury. And I had never experienced a back injury before, so I thought it was like, okay, my back hurts, let me go to the chiropractor, and then I'll get back at the gym tomorrow, right? That's how that works, right? No, that's not how that works for anyone listening. I did go and try out a few different chiropractors, a few different therapists, and I even went and saw somebody in St. Louis while I was traveling, and I came back home to Houston, and I still knew that I hadn't found my spot. And then somebody from Trace Body, actually Jessie, she reached out to me and she messaged me and she just simply said, she was like, hey, I really think that we can help you with your pain. I really think that, like, come in and let's do a session and, you know, see if we can get you feeling better. And I tried a few different things at that point and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go in. And I've tried a few different therapists and people here in Houston. I knew that I hadn't really found my people yet. And I'll tell you what, within like 10 minutes of being in your office, I was like, oh, it's this, like, this is it. And it's really cool because I kind of have this like thing in my head and it's, you know, it's a saying, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no.
I love that saying.
And I've been trying to like really apply that in every area of life, right? Including different gyms that I try out or different business deals or partnerships and things like that, right? And so when I walked into y'all's place, it was just that yes, that like immediate yes. So, okay, I want to talk about Trace Body Rejuvenation. Tell me a little bit about your role there and what it is that you do and why you're so passionate about what you guys do.
Yeah, I do a lot, but primarily what I say that I do is I create an environment for therapists to thrive. In healthcare, what I've witnessed in my time going throughout the world, throughout the country, working with other bodywork professionals from like professional athletic trainers like the Kansas City Royals, White Sox, LA Dodgers, all those guys, all the way down to like the normal everyday clinics, is there's not a lot of therapist autonomy inside of the healthcare system. So, for instance, a lot of things are ran through something that I like to call the economics of insurance, which essentially dictates how people are treated. I'm sure everyone that's listening, you yourself have probably heard a family member or someone of that nature say, oh, you know, my doctor told me I need this, but insurance denied it, right? So like I question, I say, why is that a thing, right? Like if we're truly in a system that's supposed to like help and heal people, like why do we have a financial institution that's dictating how people who know how to heal people, like why are they involved? That doesn't make sense to me. Right. And so that's when Laura, my business partner, and she's a phenomenal bodywork professional, we brought some technology over from Europe called Techotherapy.
I love that machine.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bioaccelerator. It helps like speed up healing at the cellular level. It also helps our therapists reach very, very deep into tissue, like whenever they're doing body work, and it's not as painful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've experienced all of that. So, and just kind of recap, I feel like I didn't finish that story earlier, but I was laughing because literally last week I'm in the office with you guys talking to you about how I'm doing jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and training, sometimes all in the same day, like today, and it's cool going from, I was barely able to get dressed on my own. Like that's how bad my back injury was at the beginning, to, you know, weeks later, I'm literally doing all of the things and feeling amazing and feeling great, forgetting that I ever even had a back injury. Yeah. So Zach, my therapist that's there, Trace, he's amazing. And you know, what you're saying is he's used that machine on me multiple times. And I actually struggled to explain that to people. So I'm glad you're here to do that. But I feel that, right? Like they're able to penetrate into like at a cellular level and help the body to repair and restore. And even, for example, my forearms, I came in last week saying I could barely drive here because my forearms hurt so bad from all these.
Your knees.
Yeah. Shh, don't tell people that. We don't say these certain things on the internet. And so I was like, please, like whatever you can do for my forearms. And by the time I left, I felt so much better. I was able to fully like drive. And so it's crazy how effective it is and how quick it is as well.
It is like, it's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's cool.
And so here's what's crazy is like, we would take those devices and I would give it to, there's a company called Exos. They're a massive sports performance company. They work with high level athletes around the world. And I brought it, they just bought the therapy side of their clinic.
Oh, okay.
So they were primarily just in these standalone buildings where they have trainers, ATs, PTs, all that, but they wanted to get into like the general consumer. So I went to their first clinic that they bought in Phoenix. I said, here's a device. I want you to try it. I just gave it to them. I said, use it for however long you want until you know that this works. Mm-hmm. And so I'd let them have it for a month and I would go in every week and they'd be like, this is unreal. Like every client's asking for it. Every client needs it. Every client, like, I want all of these. Mm-hmm. Once we got into the process, because of insurance, it's not reimbursed the way it is. No one bought it. They wouldn't buy it. And I was like, mind blowing. Like we see the results over and over and over. Like people come in chronic pain.
Yeah.
Like pain for years. Like we're talking like 30 years. People live with pain for almost their entire life. Like that's longer than I've been alive.
Yeah. Wow.
And people live with that level of pain and they come in and then we work on them and they come in and they're skeptical. They've been to everybody. They've been to the chiropractor, the doctors, the surgeries, all that. And it's just amazing to see people transform throughout the process to like, just to even get 40% pain relief from something that they've been experiencing their whole life. That's what keeps us going.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's really cool to see too, right? Like I remember back when there was that shooting here in Houston, it was kind of talked about at the office and I kind of mentioned like, oh, that was my brother, and I thought it was really dope that you guys immediately were like, let us treat them and help them get better just on us, like just for the fact of like thanking them for their service to the community. And I thought that was really incredible. And so talk a little bit about like your journey of like, I guess, seeing them come in with their different injuries and just like their healing process as well. How has the machine been able to help even like a gunshot injury?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, we have images that we're getting ready to post to everybody to show your brother's forearm.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's pretty unreal, actually. I mean, within 3 sessions, he had bruising. I mean, you saw he had bruising all up his arm, like into the shoulder. And it was black. I mean, it was as black as this.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so after 3 sessions, we could remove all of that bruising, get range of motion back into the arm. And what happens, because it's bioaccelerated, it actually helps the body heal itself. Right. So, he's starting to get more function. And then the other two, one of them, I believe he got shot in his femur.
Yeah.
And so that shattered it. So like for something like that, it's like Bodywork isn't really going to do much, but the technology will, right? So we can help speed that healing up, improve it. And then Nate comes in. I mean, he's still coming in all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Aww.
It's really good. And for us, it's like being called into healthcare should be more of a servant from a place of service. It feels like, right? Like we're here to serve people. We're not here to just build a business. And so the moment that, Zach and Jesse brought it up, they were like, hey, this happened. Emily brought it up. It was like, I mean, it's no question. It's like, that's what we're called to do, right?
Yeah.
Like we're called to say yes when those things pop up. And, the amazing thing is we have the team and the employees that just truly, truly live that, right? Like it's no question. There's no one in that office that said, no, why are we doing this for free? Why are we doing, it's like, there's not even a question. It was like, we're here, let's do it.
And I think it's really important that you guys all share core values, right? Because I think when you share those similar core values, it makes those decisions really easy in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, talk to me a little bit about how you find good therapists to work for you, because after that want to segue into how the listeners can go and find, good therapists in their areas. They live all over the world. So what are those key elements that you look for in a good therapist?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. It's something that we still figure out every day. Like, we're always improving, trying to figure out what is the best therapist?
Yeah.
Because it changed. Like, it's like we have an idea and then we do it and then we learn more about ourselves and then we're like, oh yeah, that actually is great. But I would say, it's multifaceted like everything, but the primary thing that we look for is character first, and then skill set second. Skill set still has to be met. You need to know the anatomy, the physiology, how things work. But for instance, Zach, your therapist, we took him right out of college. So he didn't go get a 4-year degree. He didn't get, a license in XYZ, PT or AT or any of these other things. And we took him and we trained him because he had a character and a willingness to learn and understand and like help people. And I think one thing that we miss in all of the world that we live in based on like science and information and data is dictating how you make your decisions is we kind of lack paying attention to our intuition and saying like, is this person here for me or is this person here just to be here? Right. So like when you're looking for a therapist, to tie it back, I would say really like use your intuition and say, is this person here for me? Like truly, right? Like when when you're in communion with somebody and like it's a good energy, it's a good vibe, that person is listening to you. They're like paying attention. Like, can that person do that? And that's what we look for in our therapist. Can they do that for every person that walks through the door? Not just the professional athlete, not just the person who has a big name, but for every single human that walks through that door. Are they on that equal playing field? And that's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And from a client perspective, I've worked with different therapists before where I could tell that they had no awareness of where I was at in my head or in how things were feeling or anything. And, something that I've noticed is a difference with you guys is you're very attentive and aware to what you're doing, right? Because I think sometimes people can get so focused on the job that they miss the person that's in front of them and they're not even aware or in tune with what's going on. And I think that definitely plays a huge role because, the body works as one, right? Like you can't just do one thing and ignore all the other things. And it's also interesting because I know, Bodywork, it actually connects even to like, for example, we store trauma in the body, right? And I saw you guys were reading that book or you had quoted that book. Body Keeps the Score. Body Keeps the Score.
Yep. That's a great one.
Yeah. And so I think that's so important. And I think sometimes the emotional aspect and maybe even like the previous trauma aspect can be disregarded and people are just working on the physical aspect, but an awareness of these things, I think really does help a therapist to be a more well-rounded physician or therapist for the client.
Right. And it's 100%. I mean, when we just had all of our therapists trained in something called breath work.
Yeah.
And I think you went through one.
I actually went to one of Zach's. Yeah. And I've done breath work before. I love it, but he did a great job. Yeah. That was awesome.
And I think whenever we tie those two ideas together, right, you were saying the body as a whole, we look at trauma and how that actually does manifest in the body in forms of pain. And when we see people, we go back to these chronic pain analogies with people who have been in chronic pain for 20, 30 years, you can get them from a 7 to a 2. But they're not going from a 2 to a 0 because there's all of those neural pathways. The neuroplasticity is just continuing to just hold on to that pain and they still feel it. It's the same as if when phantom pain for individuals who lose an arm or a leg. Right. So it's like they're stored in there and everything goes to the brain. It's like your nerves, they're all sending signals up here. It's like, so, you feel the pain and your body's healed, but I mean, it's still there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, just really like having a therapist that doesn't just look at it from a singular standpoint of like, you're just this body made up of parts that work like this, but we're actually in highly incredible and complex beings that move through the world, like with our bodies, mind, spirit, soul, all of that thing.
There's 2 books that my listeners have heard a million times by now, but it's because of my recent injury back in January One's called Evolve Your Brain by Joe Dispenza, and the other one is called Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Caroline Leaf. And both of them are talking about this like neuroplasticity, right? And how it's like when your body has wired itself a certain way over and over and over again for 10 years, for 15 years, for some people for 20, 30 years, right? It's so strong that it actually requires like that much or more in order to create a new neural pathway that tells you that you are healed. So like you're saying, you can actually be healed, but your brain is still signaling the pain because you have to work on that brain signal, right? And I think a lot of that comes down to your awareness and your thoughts and what you choose and allow yourself to focus on. I noticed for myself, I hit like a sticking point, kind of a struggle in my little recovery period when I started to get really discouraged, get really down, and like mentally, I was just like, God, like this sucks. Like I'm so limited. I'm, you know, in this negative headspace essentially, right? Because I'm thinking about all the things I can't do. I'm upset that I can't train. So, and then I picked up these books and I was like, I started to understand the power of your thoughts. And I feel like I always had, but not at like a scientific level. And that's what these books did for me, is they explained it at a scientific level where I was like, okay, I cannot afford to think these thoughts. I can't afford to think I'm always going to be in pain, or I can't believe I can't work out, or whatever it is, right? Or I can't believe I can't get dressed. It sucked for a while. You know, but being able to take ownership of that and say, okay, what is it that I want to create in my life? And I want to create healing. I want to create a functional body. So even if I'm in pain, I'm going to feel the pain and I'm going to make a new neural pathway. I'm going to make a new wiring, so to speak. So I definitely highly recommend those books to anyone listening. And maybe like that's something you guys could give your clients too, is like, this is along with your PT exercises, read this book. You know?
I love that. Yeah, because it does, you know, your own healing, that the difference that I hear is like, you're taking your own healing into your own hands, right? And like, that's a big piece of health that we miss. You know, when I look at my parents and my grandparents and people of that nature, it's like the doctor is the figurehead of how to make your decisions based on your health, for your health. Whereas like we're moving into an age, I like to view it as like a renaissance. I think we're moving into like this renaissance period of people taking back their own power and like understanding that, yeah, like I have much more control over my own health than I thought I did.
Yeah.
And like when you do that and you say, this is like, I put the stake in the ground and I'm helping myself, like there's no limits to what you can achieve.
Absolutely.
What you can do. Whether it's pain, whether it's a massive, you know, you're going to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest. Like they're both like saying that for yourself. You're getting that power. It's cool.
There's this documentary, and I cannot remember what it's called. It's on Netflix, and it's about this guy that goes and climbs all the mountains. Have you seen it?
Oh, there's a lot of mountain climbing.
Are there?
Yeah,
Gosh. My
I
friend,
think I know what you're talking about, though.
Okay, another friend's going to kill me for not remembering because he's watched it like 10 times. But it's essentially what you're saying, right? It's like everyone around him telling him he can't do it, and he just has this like crazy belief in him. And what's cool about watching is you're able to see how one person's crazy belief in a vision can impact everyone else around them. And I think it's huge because I think in business and in life and in relationships, right, you got to have that person with the vision, and that person with a vision cannot get discouraged when the other people around them don't see it, you know, because there's going to be times when the people around you, they can't see what you see. So you have to like lead the way with that vision, knowing full well, as long as you don't stop, you'll actually get there.
Yeah, that's huge, you know, and that's been a very interesting dynamic that I've been going through as well. Is like, how do you balance that? Like, it's like, cause I want employees. I don't even like the word employees. I don't even like, I want something else. I want a different word for it. It's like, I don't call our patients. We call them clients. It's like, I don't like the word. And because I think we need, like, how do you build an environment where people who work in the same space feel the same empowerment that you feel as the person with the vision, so that they also can contribute and have the space to build that vision into the company.
Yeah.
And then now we have like all these fully autonomous, really intelligent, amazing character individuals in a space that are like, yeah, we have a vision that's rolling, but like it's ever changing, you know, evolve with them, evolve with Trace, you know, it's like we're evolving. Right? And like, we need all of these visions to push together to create actually what this whole thing is. I mean, no business that you look at, no company that you look at is done on the back of one person.
Oh, absolutely.
And And yeah, it's like, how do you balance that? And
Well, I think part of it, and just this is just my thoughts going as you're speaking,
oh, I love it.
but I feel like part of it is, like you're mentioning, you have these incredible people, all with great character, great skill set, great ideas. I think it's being able to really clearly and plainly write the vision so that they can see it, right? If it's really clear and really plain, then they can see it. And then you find out, okay, just like in an orchestra, right? Like you're incredible at drums. So like when we need a beat, we're coming to you, right? Like you're incredible at the violin. And once everyone really understands like their exact tone within the music that you're trying to create, they can play that tone really well, right? And then just allowing them the space, the open, free space for them to come and say, hey, like, this is what I think on this, you know, because I think that creates a really good team environment. People seeing the vision, knowing their place, not knowing their place. It sounds so, know your place. No, but like understanding their unique like power and like where they can be best at. And then just that open environment for that to shift or grow into something else. And that curiosity of, okay, like just like the business evolves, you each individually evolve. So understanding like, hey, I'm really evolving into this space. I know I've been here, but I'm evolving and moving towards this now. Now I get to shift a little bit. And then everyone just having that open mindset of like learning how to adjust and shift as things change.
Yeah, that's huge. And to put that into practice is very, it's just, that's the same thing. It's like, you're always just got to learn. It's like, there's no like set way. You don't go out into the world and say like, this is the way I mean, college and all the, you know, the story that we're told growing up is like, there is a set way, but it, you know, there's really not.
Right.
It's like nothing is set in stone. It's like, you have like an infinite amount of these decisions that we can make.
Yeah.
Like we're in the place, like we have this computer in front of us. You can see anything in the world that you want. You can learn anything you want. You want to learn something about a medical terminology or diagnosis or whatever, you can find it. You can find good research, you can find bad research, you can find all of this. And so it's not an information bottleneck. It's like, it's an action bottleneck. And like the action comes from vision. And so we need just everyone to be able to utilize the vision that we're all innately born with, right? Like what I did this exercise with them. I like wrote down these questions of like things that I think about. It's like, what do I think about as an owner? And it's like, what is our like business objectives, right? So like we have 5 locations that we want to open up within the next year. We have 100 locations that we want to open up around the world. We want to create a culture that's an experiential experience where people like feel heard and taken care of, like somewhere where they can be a part of a community and be healed and help in other people's healing. It's like, so how do we do that at scale? And it's like, you know, I can't figure out all these questions. I'm not a licensed professional, so I have to like see how we can grow that and foster that within the company. So I kind of wrote all those questions out, and I was like, what are y'all's answers?
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
cool.
How do y'all answer these questions?
Yeah.
And they came back with some things that like, I was like, wow, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, but now like their minds are just like, like you just see the energy just like brighten up because now it's like, I'm giving this to you. It's like, I feel like, and this might go a little like spiritual wise. I just feel like I've been on this path, and it's like the more that as a leader, like that I just surrender to whatever's supposed to happen because it's not actually me. It's something much higher than me. And the more that I do that, the more the people are in the circle just continue to just grow exponentially. And like seeing that growth of just like when Zach first came on and right out of school, I mean, he was like a normal college kid.
Yeah.
And you know Zach now. He's an amazing human.
Oh yeah.
He is a 180 degree or 360, whatever, like complete opposite.
Oh wow.
And like
I wouldn't know that. I only know the version of him now. And I'm like, of course, he's amazing.
He's an amazing, and he's always been amazing.
Yeah.
But just how much growth he's had in just that amount of time, like just seeing that makes me feel like that like that's all that we needed to accomplish.
Right.
It's like what more do we really need whenever people who are there coming in every day are like genuinely like living amazing lives.
Yeah. And I think, one thing that kind of set you guys apart for me is I realized, my brand's called Evolve, right? Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is a company and a brand that is like evolving with where we're currently at. Whereas in some other offices, it definitely felt just kind of like you're a number on a ticket and it's like in and out as quickly as possible. You know, and you guys, I could tell just from the technology, your skill set, your personability, you know, working with me and like actually focusing on like, how can we get you as a whole back to where you need to be? How can we get you optimal? You know, and when I heard that, I was like, ding, 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 ding. Yes, someone who cares. And it's cool because, you know, as a client too, it's like you come in and now like you guys are kind of a part of my life. Like I see you every week, you know, sometimes twice a week. So it's like, I want to be in a place where I feel that like connection and I feel that good energy and those people around you that are invested in your training. They care about how your training's going. And, you know, and I definitely get that from you guys. So I love that you're focused on creating community within this as well. Like you said, the experience-based client, you know, experience essentially. Yeah. And I think that's huge because I think people are also looking for a community now than ever. And I feel like that'll help with that as well. You mentioned breath work a little bit and you started going into like your spiritual journey a little bit too. So I kind of want to like connect the two and talk to me about your personal experience with breath work and what has been maybe a major benefit of incorporating breath work into your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a deep question because it's something that when I first did it, so my wife, she was like, Andrew, go try out this class. I was like, all right. You know, I was like skeptical. And so I slowly went to the class and I showed up and he lays me down and he's like, all right, we're going to start just breathing. And he kind of goes through, you know, your body stores trauma into, you know, in different ways. Mm-hmm. And how I would say it now is like we walk around with these backpacks with, you know, like essentially you can imagine like our emotions and we put rocks. Every time we hold on to something that happens to us, we just put more rocks into our backpack. Like, oh, that guy cut me off, throw another rock in the backpack. Oh, that person said something to me, throw it in the backpack. Oh, my wife said something that made me feel insignificant. And so now I'm like, now I'm frustrated with her, throw another rock. So I'm like, I didn't even know I was carrying around like a massive backpack full of rocks.
Wow.
And, you know, to put on top of that, being raised as a male in our culture is very much so like deal with it, right? Like there's not a lot of room for men to be able to say like, you know, you have feelings? Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, actually we do. You know, we have very intense feelings. Those feelings are powerful. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I go into this breath work not knowing all of that. And it was one of the most profound experiences that I had in 30 minutes.
But the first session in.
Ever, yeah.
That's awesome.
And I was skeptical and I'd start bawling. I was
really?
Yeah. Never, I probably hadn't cried that much in 5 years before.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful that you were able to allow yourself to feel all of that.
Yeah. It was intense. And so I'm just laying there at the end of the class and Steven Jaggers, he's the one who, you know, who ran it and all that. And I'm just laying there and I'm like, I don't even know what happened. Like my face is dripping, you know, tears everywhere. Wow, yeah. And like, I'm like, whoa, like I'm in this, like, I feel extremely clear, but I feel also like, wow, like that's all I could say. Uh-huh. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so I go to Steve and I'm like, dude, I've got to get you to train everybody. And like, this is powerful stuff. Like I didn't even know.
You know, what's so cool about breathwork to me?
What?
We literally have access to it all the time.
Yeah.
You literally can just start breathing and experience that. Like, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go buy anything. You don't have to be a part of any, like, you don't have to go somewhere. Like, it's nowhere else. It's literally inside of us with our own breath.
Yeah.
Like me, when I first experienced breath work, it was a one-on-one session with a friend who I really trust and love, Justin Lovato. He's in Austin. And it was my first session ever. And at the very end of it, I felt my body like go into this really deep, like meditative state. 'Cause we did the breath work leading into a meditation. And so the breath work for me was fine. And then into the meditation, I got into like just the deepest, most inner peace that I've ever experienced in my life. And mine wasn't very emotional. I feel like I do a very good job of processing a lot of my emotions a lot of the time. And I've done a lot of work and therapy. So mine wasn't an emotional experience, but it was like pure bliss and pure joy and peace. And then what actually did make me emotional was just the awareness that we all have this inside of us. Yeah. Like that's what's at the deepest part of our core. Yeah. It's crazy,
it's
right?
Cool. Yeah. It's amazing. And that'll, going into that and you saying that, yeah. I mean, I was thinking that too. I was like, because in medicine, it's so legislative heavy. Literally like everything you do is like, that's the reason so many doctors and PTs and chiropractic, all these guys, they're so there's a lot of fear driven within treating people because of the fear of lawsuits, right? So like, it's so legislative heavy. That's why a lot of companies don't get into the healthcare space. That's what's kind of the way it is. That's why it's stagnant. But when I was like, this is the breath. It's like, who's going to tell you what to do with that? Yeah. Like, no, nobody.
Like, I don't think you can have a lawsuit based on your breath.
Yeah, like, what are you going to do? This person's breathing. We're leading through breath. Yeah. Like utilizing this God-given innate thing, this life giver to us, and it's just always there. And we're just learning how to use it as a tool now instead of, just taking it for granted. Like how many, I can't eat before breath work, I would go through the world. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't realize the power that it held just to breathe. And like ever since then, I mean, I do morning meditations, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. And every day I'd lead it with a breath work, like a little 10-minute breath work. And that's all I need to get into that parasympathetic and just drift into just this deep meditative state that you're talking about. And it's profound.
Yeah, I think it's something that everybody should try out and explore and just experience for themselves.
Absolutely.
It's so powerful. And I love that you're incorporating that into your work environment and the therapist. And I went to that one little event that Zach had. So I hope that you guys end up doing more like that, because I feel like that could really help connect the community and the clients and, give people that safe space to be able to kind of go into some of the deeper things together.
Yeah, it's huge. And you hit on something very important that is really something that we're trying to learn as well, is like the practice of like holding space for somebody. Now that's powerful.
It's beautiful. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite things ever, because I think it's like one of the most loving things.
Yeah.
To see somebody and their rawness and their authentic like feelings and emotions and everything, and to just like hold loving space. That's beautiful. And I think it's so powerful.
Yeah. Do you feel that like, it's almost like a connection? It's like such an intense, emotional, energetic connection with that human that like you feel what they feel. I mean, their feelings flood through you. And as someone who's facilitating breath work, it's like to allow all of that emotion, no matter what it is. And a lot of the emotion that will come up is emotion that maybe you've never even felt.
Wow.
So like you grow through these experiences and you can't hold on to that. That's like their sacred space to like let go of this thing that they've been harboring for so long. And it's just, you're there to just feel it with them, be there, make sure that they know that they're supported, and just to like sit in love, the seed of the soul kind of ideas. And it's very powerful on both ends, for a practitioner and for the person doing it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree 100%. Well, okay, so I want to transition us a little bit back into bodywork and getting into that a little bit. I had some questions that I think the listeners would probably want to know, but is bodywork just for people that are in pain, or if somebody's just walking around and they don't really feel they have any ailments, would bodywork be good for them as well?
We think it's good for everybody. I mean, so we don't partake in the philosophy that it needs to be done once a week, twice a week for the rest of your life.
Right.
But we do believe that, like a once a month tune up type of deal works really, really well for people. Because we kind of take this idea that your body moves the way that you move through the world. So if you sit down all day and you're sitting at a desk all day, like your body's going to start to form to that form that you're in. If you're working out, let's say you're a rock climber and you're climbing rocks all day, like your body is actually forming itself around that. So what happens is, like, whenever we develop these like small pains, aches, They may be small in that time. They go away in like a week, right? Like the little things.
Yeah.
Like say you strain your ankle or like you hurt your wrist. But what happens is like your body is always protecting itself. So like it's compensating. So like your body's shifting. It's always evolving. It's moving. It's changing. And what we do is we say, well, let's see how the body has shifted. And let's see if we can just work some things out that you may not even be aware of. We have people who come in, and it's funny because we teach something called tension tracing, which is kind of this methodology to go through the body. And you'll see our therapist, someone will come with like a shoulder pain, and our therapist will be in here, they'll be poking the left hip, and the person will be like, ow, I didn't know that hurt.
Yeah.
And then they go down to the quad, and they're like, oh, man, I didn't know that hurt either.
Yeah.
And like by the end of the day, it's like we're actually, stress manifests in the body and into the tension. When you're stressed and you're tense, like your shoulders go up into your ears, and so like we can work all those things out. I think it's very powerful stuff to do.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And I have to say, as someone who is an athlete with training, there's so many people walking around that are probably working out and, they feel like they're fine, but they've never really had a full assessment. And not having that full assessment, you may not realize that when you're doing lat pull down, your right lat is actually pulling way more than your left lat. And if you're a bodybuilder, that's a big deal because you're going to be imbalanced in that way. Yep. And so a lot of times people will have these imbalances and not even be aware of it because it's their normal. Yep. For example, I remember Zach being like, I really want to work on your feet. And he's like looking at my feet and how like one is, I guess, pointing a different way, like slightly. But like as a therapist, it stands out to him. And I'm like, what's wrong with my feet, bro? Like, I never noticed anything with my feet, but it's like, there's one that's like internally rotated for XYZ reasons. But then you think about, okay, well, could that have played into me on the leg press coming down a little bit too far with a rotated foot on the side that I ended up injuring, right? So you start connecting the dots a little bit. So I definitely think that it's something, that you should go and do. I always recommend also like getting your blood work done, right? I think it's just one of those things that you should do, whether it's preventative or it's a part of just kind of getting your body into optimal levels. Because if we're honest, if we're not getting any body work done at all and not putting our body in the right positioning, there's no chance that we're optimal, guys. Like, let's not lie to ourselves. Okay. we want optimal living here. So yeah, I think that's really important. And I think, I wanted to share, I guess, some long-term benefits and then also like some short-term benefits for people that are going to make this investment for themselves. Right. Sometimes people come in like, myself, I was going to find Bodywork anyways. I needed to get it done. But it definitely kickstarted that when I got injured. So obviously the short term is like getting better from injury, but like, let's talk about like long-term benefits post injury, post that first initial session. What are some long-term benefits of getting consistent body work in?
I mean, optimal movement is at the end of the day, the most benefit that you're going to get from it, which sounds like it's not a lot, but it's actually a ton. Right.
Everything.
Whenever you start to realize, like when you don't get out of the car or when you stand up or when you squat heavy weight and you don't have to deal with like this hitched up hip anymore, thing that like you've been dealing with for a year or 2 years, like that's huge.
Yeah.
Or like whenever you're sleeping and your back starts to hurt and then you wake up in the middle of the night and sometimes like you're just tight and your back's hitched up and you're like, or your neck's hitched up and stuff like that. Like, when those things start to go away, your quality of life improves drastically. And when your quality of life improves, when you don't have to think like it's kind of like, how do you put it? Your mind, you only have so much in there, right? Like it's like that, your mind real estate. If you have these little things that come up and like little pains that come up or like little aches, like that's taking up real estate. You're thinking about it. Like, when you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about something that's going to get you to where you want to go. It's kind of not going to help you evolve into what you want to evolve into. It's not going to help you like reach the goals that you want to reach. It's not going to help you be a better human to your people around you. So, I mean, I think it ties into like a very significant portion of life, and just optimizing your body and your flow through life is huge.
Yeah, I agree. That's what we're all about here on the Evolve with Emily show. We want to be optimal thinkers, doers, believers, athletes, like in every single way. And, for me, for example, we were in jiu-jitsu the other day, and we're training, and the guy's like, you want your shoulder and you want your positioning to be this way, right? And so I go and I do it, and I was like, oh, okay, I need more mobility in the shoulder because I want to be able to do that move. So then I'm like, now I have this new goal and target, but it's like when you're tight and you don't have that freedom, and freedom's a core value of mine, but it's funny because I apply it to everything, even if it's like freedom of movement, right? Like that's a massive deal. Being able to move your body, whether it's playing with your kids or, playing sports or athletics or weightlifting, being able to fully move your body is such an incredible thing. Like, and I think, coming post injury, it's just really hitting me a lot of gratitude for the fact that I'm right now can fully move my body however it is that I need to. And I think that's such a blessing. And for me, that's something that should be protected and invested into. Like we only get one earth suit. I call these things like our earth suits.
I love that.
We only get one. Like we can make some upgrades and stuff, but we really only have one. So why not fully take care of it?
That's huge. And it kind of like ties back into that empowerment mindset, right? Like bringing your health back into your own hands, like is everything.
Yeah.
Because you can learn so much how to eat, how to move, how to exercise, all of those things in which every doctor will say, this is what you need to do to be healthy, but that doesn't like provide that plan. Like you can do on your own. Like the tools and the people are out there. You just have to go find them. You have to invest in it.
And be willing to do the work.
Yeah, right.
Right. Because Jesse gave me some homework and I was, good. And then I like skipped a few days of the homework. And then I noticed when I skipped a few days of the homework, I wasn't doing as well, obviously.
Right.
Which makes sense, right? It's like, duh. But sometimes it can be hard to like make yourself do all these little things that like is not what you love to do. Right. And so then when I really started taking it seriously, taking that ownership over my, PT exercises and making sure I got them done. And I treated it just like I would treat a workout, right? Like just like I was going to have a heavy leg day, I was like, okay, PT exercises, and when I was really consistent with that, it was pretty amazing how quickly I started really healing. So I think, body, mind, soul, you got to get it all in alignment for you to experience like the optimal version of you, whether that's just you regularly or you recovering from an injury.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we all want to move better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 27 and I always come up with like these like random pains. I mean, it is what it is. I can't imagine being like 50 years old.
Stop.
And, like, not dealing with anything.
All right. All my 50-year-old listeners need to message him. You're making some people mad over here. Let's switch the subject.
We're not live.
Okay. So I mean, I think again, it's just important to take care of yourself in every single way. Yep. So I want to know, what was your experience with getting into the healthcare space? Like what inspired you as an entrepreneur and as a businessman to get into this kind of space?
It was a slow transition. You've heard of the Enneagram?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So I just use this sometimes. I don't believe like that's who you are, but so I'm an 8, which is a challenger. And so like, I kind of like to challenge things. And so whenever we were in this we were selling Tecker around the country. And when I kept running into like roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and like all these reasons as to like why people aren't getting, like, why are we not investing in things to help people get better faster?
Yeah.
And we see the results over and over and over and over and over. Like it's not like, to me, it was like I'm like, I was in manufacturing before. If you have a piece of your plant that is running, that is not optimal, and you find a way to improve that for efficiency, you do it. Yeah. Like you make the investment to do that.
It's like a no-brainer to you.
It's a
you
no-brainer.
Don't even think about it.
Right. You don't even think about it. You're like, okay, I can, increase my margin by 5-10% by investing $200K into this equipment, right? Like whenever we have a device now where we see like your outcome instead of efficiency in a manufacturing facility, your outcome that you want to do as a business, to know that you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing is like healing people. Why would you not choose something that's going to decrease the amount of time that your people actually have to be there in pain? And when I kept seeing this over and over and over and over again, where people were like, no, we can't do it because of this insurance. No, we can't do it because, we can't work it into our system or whatever. It's like, that makes no sense to me. So I was like, after a year and a half of doing that on just and this wasn't like the big guys, like the people with the money, they did it because they have the money, they have the cash, they have the capital. They're like, oh yeah, we'll do it. We'll pay for it, and they see the results. Like players see it. But we get to like the everyday American. I was like flabbergasted. I was like, what? Like, this makes no sense to me. And so at that point, I was just like, screw it. We'll just
make our own.
Yeah. I was like,
awesome.
If no one else is going to do it, like, let's just go do it. And that's what we did. We opened up in Memorial City in January of 2020, like middle of COVID. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. It was intense. And we had 10 clients that would come in a week. And now we got three therapists, and we're growing like crazy.
That's awesome.
And that was with no marketing. Like, we bootstrapped the whole thing.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's funny because I had posted that I was there, and I had a few people reach out, and they were like, oh, I love Trace. And so they actually, I guess, had already heard about you guys, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's amazing what'll happen when, like, you know, we talk about values, when those values of your business continually stay aligned with like what you're actually trying to do. Yeah. Like, people see that because it's real. It's like, we're not stuck in this. And that's a challenger in me. It's like, I don't agree with a lot of the things that we're doing today in medicine. I don't agree a lot of things that healthcare is doing. I don't agree with a lot of the ways that, you know, it's like when you're growing up and a teacher's like, oh no, don't do it that way. And you're like, well, why not? It's like, well, because it's always been done that way. It's like that phrase to me is something that drives me insane. And it always has.
I bet your teachers.
Oh, they didn't.
It's good though. Like I feel like now more than ever, it's important to have those people that question authority, because you got to kind of question who is doing what when they're in authority, right? Yeah. We have some people in authority that should not have ever been there in the first place. And I agree. I think there's a lot of things happening in the healthcare system. It all needs to evolve, right? It all needs to see where we're at, read the freaking temperature of the room, right? The room being the United States of America. Yeah. And evolve and change, right? And start creating actual solutions. You know, if you look at even like the pharmaceutical world, right? I mean, we could go all into that, but that's all, everything. If you follow the money, you'll find exactly why things are the way that they are. Our healthcare system really isn't about helping people become healthy and whole. It's actually just about helping them become more dependent and more needy on these systems and things and prescriptions and whatever it is, you know? So when I look and see people that are really focused on creating health, actual health, you know, and not just a paycheck or not just, you know, getting money from people, that's where I'm like, okay, like, these are good people. This is what we need. And we need more of this. We need more people that are fed up with the healthcare system and willing to go out there and create real solutions and create healthier, happier, optimal humans.
Yeah, it's totally true. And for all of us, right? Like it's like the way that I've always thought about it is like every person that we help in here helps the community tenfold. Yeah. Because like the person who walks out who is now able to do the things that they want, who's able to play with their kids, who's not like sitting on the couch because they're like bummed out because they're in pain all day, right? You got to that state, right? Like where it's like, it starts to mess with your head.
Absolutely.
And like when you can remove that for people and like they can now go out into the world, like they're different humans. Yeah. And like those people can now serve other people in a way that they couldn't before. And it also it's been leading me down this path of, you know, like how do we create healthy businesses? Not like we are a business, right? So when we think about it, like we are a company, but how do we create a business like in regards to processes, how many days people work, like what are they doing with their lives? Like how do we create the environment of health within the ecosystem of a company? Yeah. Not just like the corporate culture. Like that's what a lot of businesses do now. Like you work all day, it's work hard, play hard, yada yada. You know, I'm all for work hard, play hard. If you have the health side of that comes with it, because what happens is it leads to burnout's huge now in corporate America and everyday America in businesses. And I'm on a path. We're going to go to a 4-day work week for everybody. Wow. Yeah, it's doable. And when we look at the forecast, right? And I tell people this, I'm like, this is what's crazy to me, is when we look at the forecast for like our margins and things of that nature, it's like what we're losing by going to a 4-day work week for all of our employees is for our locations, like 8 to 10 employees, we lose $100K a year opportunity cost. So like, it's essentially like $100,000 investment. So people can get 52 days back to themselves. Wow. So it's like for each human. So like that's 52 times 10. So what, 520 days worth of human life that is given back to this individual for $100,000. It's like, that's nothing.
Wow.
Like 100K is nothing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, for us to make a decision to like do something like that.
That's awesome.
And so it's like, I'm really like, how do we do that? Like, and I'm always looking for people, you know, to help, is like, how do we?
Yeah. Are you hiring therapists? Cause I feel like there might be some listening that are like, how do I go work there?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah. We're hiring one right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, like, can more people apply is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Send in an application.
Yeah. 100%.
That's cool.
And we just gotta do it, you know, like we know what we gotta do. Like, you know what you gotta do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so cool how, you know, like you're mentioning, you give, let's say that it's the client or it's the therapist that works for you. You're literally giving them their life back. And imagine when people have more space in their head and their heart, what they'll create, what they'll do, like they'll be better just humans on earth from it. Yeah. You know, and I think sometimes people, they get so stuck in the monotony of like work and school and, you know, the work hustle kill 24/7 that they actually don't have any creative space to even have new thoughts, new visions, new beliefs, new imaginations. Yeah. Right. And that's, I think, where like the magic can happen, is when people just have enough space to breathe first and foremost, right. You know, and then to secondly say, okay, now that I've been able to breathe, like, what are my thoughts? Where am I at in life? Where am I going? You know, I know this version of me, but what's the next version of me? What does that look like? And how can I start to explore that? And how can I learn? How can I develop? And I feel like when you really foster that environment, you'll just have people growing like weeds.
And that's what we want.
But like really pretty ones and flowers instead. But like weeds grow fast, you know what I mean? Yeah. Bad analogy.
The little dandelions, you know, they have
they're cute. Yeah, that works. Or maybe like a vine is a better. Do they grow fast? I don't know. I don't plant.
You don't?
No.
Yeah, I don't know what grows fast.
Yeah, something.
Weeds do.
Yeah, that's why I used it.
And I gotta say, like, you know, I talk like I have this bad sentiment towards healthcare, but it's not the people in healthcare. Like, it's the everyday healthcare professional are profound people.
I think the same.
They're amazing humans. I'm like, oh my God, like I can't even imagine first going through all of the rigors of school, and then right after school going through the rigors of like all of the like experiences of dealing with people at their worst in the emergency area, and like even people who are at the lowest of lowest points in their lives, like the healthcare professionals today, that's who they're helping, and they're doing everything that they can. But what we see is the system is burning those people out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like we have these amazing humans who are getting burnt out, who'd have no time to make change, even though they want to. So many docs that I talk to, so many people in the healthcare industry, they want change to happen, but they don't have the space to make change happen. You know, and we're dealing on top of, you know, we see these things happening, you know, with pharmaceutical companies. I mean, the giant lawsuit that recently happened, and then we're also dealing with the mental health crisis today. Like, that doesn't exclude healthcare professionals.
Absolutely.
You know? And so like we have to bring health into the fabric of society, right? Like into corporate America, into our entire world, like of work. When you think about how much people work, it's a lot. It's insane. Yeah. It's like, okay, so you have 2 days off, you have 5 days on. Some people work 7 days a week. Power to you. 5 days out of the week, what is that, like 70% of your life?
And then one day's usually spent recovering from being so tired of working in events and all that stuff, right? Yeah, it's a lot. We're a society that is driven to work. And it's like when you take a step back and get out of the like matrix, so to speak, you take a step back and you look at it and you're like, okay, so I'm supposed to work 24/7 for how many years, maybe get a vacation here and there. And then what? And also why? You know, you got to start asking these questions like, is that really how I want to live my life? And that's why I think it's important to really identify what helps you feel fulfilled and what will help you enjoy your process of whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Not to say that you're always going to enjoy school or always going to enjoy everything that you do at work, right? Like we all have stuff that we do that we don't like, we're not like bouncing around happy
100%.
about, you know, so it does require that. But I think at the end of the day, you can still find people and environments and job situations where you can feel that fulfillment as you're doing the things you love and also the things that are just required as part of the job, you know?
Yeah. And that's huge. You hit the nail on the head right there, because I'm sure everyone's heard like the Great Resignation and all that. And I hear, grandparents and boomers and there's kind of like this judgment that's placed on people. And I can agree that there are individuals in our society that are lazy, that, don't get up and work and don't want to work. But that's been true for eternity. That's never been something that's like brand new.
Yeah.
But I think what we see is, rather than Great Resignation, we see like a transformation of like values and like, what am I going to do with my life? And I'm not going to work this corporate job that is going to run me into the ground that my father was in. When I look at my dad did not like his job, does not like his job. Never, I mean, maybe he did when he was younger, but like I saw how much it just mentally destroyed him. I was like, I never want to do that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And when we have people our age who are seeing that happen, and like our parents and our grandparents, and how like we love those humans, we love those people so intensely, but we see how much they're hurting. It's like, we got to do something different.
Yeah.
Like, we got to break those chains. Like we can't just continue to do the same things.
Yeah.
To get
It's
the same result.
crazy too. You ask yourself, like, why would you continue, doing these things for that long? And, when you kind of dig into that question, I think there's a lot of ways it could go. I think some people are so scared of the unknown and so scared of change that, let's say that they're 5 years into a job. They're like, I've already spent 5 years here. I only have, 20 until retirement. And you're like, 20, that's almost a whole nother lifetime.
Only 20.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I've met people like that are miserable and they say, I only have 10 years. And I'm like, 10 years is a long time, but I think people are so scared of change. They're scared of the unknown that they're unwilling to leave the safety and security of what they know that they have, which, if we're really being real, it's actually a false sense of safety and security, because they could fire your ass tomorrow.
Right. Well, and we saw that during COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how many people got laid off because of COVID, how many people got forced into vaccinations, that mandatory vaccinations.
And then got fired because they didn't. And now the mandates are actually being reversed.
Right. That's crazy to me.
That's crazy.
And like, so, I mean, go resign if I'm like, hey, you're working at somewhere that you hate, and they don't value you as a person. I'm like, more power to you. Go resign and you'll find something else. There's a huge economy out there. Like, we kind of get stuck into the scarcity mindset where it's like, there's not that much. And I think that's where change is scary, because you don't know what's coming next. But when you start to look, there is a lot out there.
Yeah. So I'm being brought to mind a client of mine who is in the healthcare system, and she, this has been her whole thing, and she's in this environment where she feels that it's not right for her. It's not a good environment. It's not what she's wanting to have. And she kind of wants to get away from the healthcare system, because she's also realizing it's not really about health. But she's still so passionate about health and passionate about helping people. So do you have any advice for somebody like her, who maybe they've gone through like a nursing program or some sort of regular health program like that? They're getting into the workforce and they're realizing, I don't like this environment. I don't like the way that they do things. How could they go about finding someone or something like you, right? Some sort of, whether it's a doctor that started their own practice and they're really focused on true health and true optimization, or, just people that are like evolving with the times. Do you have any sort of guide for them or advice?
Well, first I would say go straight to Indeed and look for everything that's out there, and then heavily research each company that's out there. That's like my practical advice.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. The other advice that I would say is like, look for terms like value-based medicine, like cash-based clinics, cash-based healthcare, because those are usually the people that we see that are most innovative in their own space, because they're deviating from the current model of insurance. So a lot of healthcare, there's these things called CPT codes that essentially dictate like, okay, when you go into a PT clinic that's ran by insurance, your therapist is going to be marking up CPT codes each part of your visit because it's all based on how they get paid. So they optimize how they get paid with codes. So it's like kind of this puzzle piece where it's like, okay, this person's going to do manual therapy. This CPT code equals $150 for 15 minutes. And then this CPT code does this. But when you go into a cash-based setting, there is none of that like economics that's dictating how these processes are ran. And you're dealing with people who like really have a lot of autonomy.
Okay,
and
cool.
so like I would look for companies who are really heavy in the value-based care systems. And then obviously, you know, there was a company that I talked to recently. We had them on our podcast. I can't remember what the name of it was. But they're a Medicare Advantage plan, and they have an amazing culture in their company. Yeah, because apparently like these Medicare Advantage plans allow tons of autonomy, and like they're over here like having parties with their clients and stuff. That come
awesome.
in. Yeah, and I was like, whoa, I had no idea that like this was even a thing.
Yeah.
So I think you just got to look really, really hard, and you're gonna find someone. I truly believe like if you have that intent where you're here to help and you're here to serve, like if you surrender to that and you just allow yourself to drift into that world and start looking for it and start like just allowing it to come in, it's gonna pop up for you.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, you know, you've mentioned surrender a few times here, and that is such a powerful word, because when you are following what you were created to do and like who you truly are and following that intuition and surrendering to what's around you, I really believe that it just starts to come in, you know, you all of a sudden start to see like, why are all these incredible people all flocking to me in my life, right? And I think sometimes what happens is in that transition period, you go through a period of isolation, right? So when you're around the negativity, you're around the toxicity, or around all the things that you don't want to be about, it seeps into you whether you want it to or not. And so you're kind of blocking the opposite of that. You're blocking the good. So I would say give yourself a little transition time to like get out of that. Go on your own healing journey, go on your own spiritual, mental health journey, like everything. Get yourself so optimal. And as you go along that journey, you'll actually attract those other people, and it'll become so much more clear where and, you know, where to go, who to work with, you know, what to be about. And you'll just see all of it start to kind of come to you. That's
a really good point. I mean, yeah, like there's almost needs to be like this decompression phase where, because when you are in that world of negativity, it's a silo. It's like you are who you hang around, and that is as true as it gets. It's like if you do not distance yourself from that, like it hangs on to you. And so like in Eastern medicine, like Reiki and things of that nature, they say that essentially people can like cling onto you and like it just drains your energy. So like it's kind of interesting, but I think it's like
I believe
super real.
Yeah, I felt it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's like it like attaches onto you.
Wow.
It's like this energetic where it just sucks you dry.
Yeah.
And we've all been around those people. Like they can walk in the room and you're just like, oh,
right.
And it just goes. And you're like, that's a real thing that you're feeling. Like that's
or the opposite. You know, I've gone into like hanging out with friends. I'm like, I'm so tired. I kind of want to cancel, but I don't cancel. So I just go. But then I leave with more energy than I went in with, like more energy, and I'm inspired. And all of a sudden I want to work or like write a thing down, you know? And so I think the energy thing, it's a real thing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And whenever you start to tap into that, it's like you said, things just fall in there. It's like they do. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
The more that I go through this journey is like the more that I step back and just allow whatever's supposed to happen, things happen. It's like Jessie, when she came on, she's a doctor of physical therapy. When we first put out a ad for a DPT, we were like, no way. It's like they make $120K, you know, they have these jobs where they're well taken care of. I was like, there's no way someone's just going to come in here and like want to work with us, like some small startup, and like take a massive pay cut and like devote all this time and effort into something that like it with like an unlicensed, you know, new therapy system. And literally the next day she popped up, she replied, and I was like, it was like 9 a.m. and I was in Phoenix, and like there's these things called like Friday High Day where all these people like just go and get stoned. I
was like, is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, I swear it's like this club that we're part of, and like they hold all these wellness events, and like they have They have like sound healing. That's where I learned breath work.
Oh,
like,
cool.
It's like this wellness community, and they don't just get stoned all the time. It's just like this really interesting event that they do.
Is it 420?
Well, it's it starts at 420.
I mean, like April 20th.
Oh no, they do it like every month at.
Oh, every month. They do it every month. Overachievers over there.
Yeah, Archipelago. Look it up. They're awesome. And,
That's funny. So were you high when you were responding to her?
Yeah, I was maybe had a little bit, and then so I was like, oh my god, I was like, she applied, and I looked at her resume, and I was like, so I called her. I was like, I gotta talk to you right now. Like, what's up?
Yeah.
Like, are you actually? She was like, yeah, I'm looking for it. I like what you do. I like what you're saying. And we talked for like 40 minutes.
Wow.
And it just happened.
That's
it's like
awesome.
when things are supposed to happen in the most likeliest of times, when you don't even want to, when you're not even thinking about it, it's not even on your radar, they happen.
Yeah.
Because you're just there. You're just like, okay, I guess it's go time, I guess it's time to like do something.
What you're mentioning is so hard to put in practice, right? Because you're talking about literally like loosening your grip, putting your hands up, like, okay, I'm not trying to control this anymore. Like I'm actually letting it go and letting it flow, and like what comes to me will come. Having that amount of surrender and also trust in the process, I think it takes a lot of practice to get there. And it's something I'm also always trying to learn and get better at as well, is just really stop trying to control the outcome, right? Because it's kind of like in the business world, especially, we are taught that like, there's strategy and there's ways, and you're almost taught that like you can control things, so to speak. Like maybe they don't directly say that, but that's kind of how it feels. Like if you work, hustle, kill 24/7, you will get to where you're going, kind of thing. Yeah. Right. And I think there's this like balance to be had with it. Of course you have to work hard. Of course you have to show up, but you have to do it with this like loosened grip of just allowing, it's almost like this palm open, palm up thing where you just allow things to come when they come.
Yeah. And it is very hard. Like I am not in surrender mode all the time. Like I drift into, I'm probably in surrender mode maybe like in the mornings after my meditation for a good amount of time. And then like I intermittently will catch myself throughout the day and be like, all right, let's just let it go. But like, it's not an everything, every day, every moment thing. It's just like always just trying to bring my awareness to it and like just kind of like having the practice there. But like most of the time I get into grind mode, like I get into focus mode, and I'm like so heavily focused on this thing. And like, I can't just be like, no, I can't be focused, but it's like still just like kind of like just remembering that it's there when I need to be in that state.
Yeah. And I think it helps to have that intense focus, but then it's like the awareness of, okay, when something happens, how am I responding? Right. Am I coming from a place of surrender? Cause I'm a very intensely focused person. Like the girls downstairs can tell you that, cause throughout our days, like I am very intentional and very present in each moment, which means like, if I'm doing this, like I'm not over here, right? I'm doing just this and I'm finishing it. I'm completing it. And then like, as soon as I'm done with work, I'm like, carefree, let's talk about anything. Right. And so I think sometimes it can come across as, just, it is like hyper focused. Right. Yeah. But I think you have to be that in order to get to where it is that you want to go, but it's like, you can be hyper focused, and then when something goes wrong, you can try to be upset or control it or do whatever, or you can choose, okay, this happened. Okay, what is my next step then? How do I want to intentionally respond to this thing? And I think as long as you're intentionally responding instead of allowing the environment to dictate your emotions, I think that's when you can live in that place of extreme focus, intentionality, and surrender at the same time.
Good point. Yeah. Like simultaneously having it all happen. Yeah. That's a very good point, because it's, like that there's this thing that I think about a lot, which is like when I present, because I'm always presented with decisions. We're always presented with like, all right, what's got to be done? Like this or that. Yeah. It's like, okay, so Peter Diamandis, he's the one who created the X prizes, where like you make the $100 million if you figure out this solution to like hunger or to space race or stuff like that. And he has these principles that he follows, and one of them is like, if you're presented with two options, to do both, because you can always do things simultaneously. One of our mentors, my investor in our company now, It's one of his biggest things that he just has taught me so much is you have to do all of these things very well at the same time. It's like we're not like we are present, but these things are always happening simultaneously as well. Like it's a very complex like reality that we live in.
Yeah.
It's like it's never just one thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's always just a vast array of experiences and stimuli and it's like whoa.
Which is why I think it's even more important to practice stillness because we always have this kind of, it's like this game or this competition for our awareness and competition for our focus, whether it's something as simple as your loved ones that are around you, your employees, coworkers, your team members, whatever, or your social media, right? There's always these things grabbing for your attention. Yeah. So learning like, okay, what's the best investment of my intention right now or of my attention? And then having intention with that.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Well, today's been an awesome show. I feel like, we talked a lot about entrepreneurship and, being able to cultivate and create a healthy environment for others to grow. We talked a lot about body work and breath work, spirituality. I feel like it's been a pretty well-rounded show. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you feel you wanted to shout out or talk about before we end today's show?
Disclaimer. I am kind of like just making it up as I go. So don't take anything that I say.
I love it. I love it.
You should do.
So
you should figure it out too.
Yeah. The saying that I say, which I stole from my dad, they know my dad as Doc, is take what I say with a grain of salt and anything that's not for you, just bundle it up, throw it in the trash.
Yep.
Because
I'll take that.
I totally agree with that. Like everyone here, we are just humans that are trying to figure things out and expressing our thoughts and beliefs as we figure it out. And tomorrow it might be different.
It might be. Yeah.
We'll keep you guys. We'll keep you guys updated. So if you guys are in the Houston area and you're looking for a really great place to go and get body work and physical therapy done, obviously I 10 of 10 highly recommend Trace Body Rejuvenation. You guys can go in there, let them know that I sent you, and they will take great care of you. Zach is the therapist that I personally work with, but you're not allowed to take any of my sessions. I've already told him that, so don't even try. No, I'm kidding. He's great. But they have an array of great therapists there, so you guys will definitely have an incredible experience, and maybe I'll see you at an appointment. I usually go kind of in the afternoons. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for being on today's show.
Yeah, thank you. It was so fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yep. All right, guys, you guys know the drill. If you enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor and like the video on YouTube, or if you're listening on an audio platform, do me a favor and share it on your Instagram stories, text it to a friend, do whatever you need to do to help the show grow. We are at almost 100,000 downloads per month. Damn. It's pretty cool, right? I'm pretty hype about that. So thank you guys to those of you that really do take time and share it. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.